So my comments are four parts. One is I start with an anecdote. Second is very few comments about the paper. And third is some general comments about the interconnection between social media and social movement, social change. And then the last part is like I have few images to illustrate my comments. So the anecdote is the following. In March 8th, I was in Egypt, and I was in the office where the Coalition of the Youth who issued a statement to decline meeting Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for the U.S. support of Mubarak when I volunteered to translate the statement and so forth. But at the same day, Clinton was interviewed by a website, Egyptian website, Masrawi.com, where she said, I'm glad that American technological invention helped spreading democracy and Arab Spring. On the other hand, Egyptians too, bloggers and activists, have some jokes. So on the one hand, they were very upset about this comment, and actually, in general, activists were upset and feel insulted by the exaggeration of social media and ignoring how things are complicated in reality. At the same time, they have a joke about we are the first revolution in history that started with an event on Facebook. So that's my story. That's on the one hand, they are acknowledging how social media was important in the revolutions, and on the other hand, they are skeptic about reducing stories to to digital activism or this part. So that's the story. So on my comment on that is that this ambivalence of activists stems from the larger story of how we, like mainstream media and even academics, sometimes we are struggling between the techno-deterministic approach to social media and how realist, or to what extent we are realist, and how the connection between the digital or the virtual world and, if we might, real world works. One thing I liked the most about our discussion today is how we are trying to put everything, our perspective to social media on historical and ethnographic and theoretical context, than just and everybody in the room is in agreement about against techno-deterministic perspective. So that's very good. And another thing that actually activists they have many jokes, and just to our comments, I just to paraphrase or to repeat one that they always said that they agree that they say Facebook didn't invent carriage, and they didn't sleep under tanks during the Tahrir where they tried to invade tanks, and revolution didn't happen virtually. They do happen in the streets and so forth. So on another, before moving from the anecdote, so one notion I think is useful to our discussion is the notion of relationality. So we invoked many concepts and terms all throughout the day about social media and social change, or social media and speciality, and social media and activism. So it's always, we have to discuss social media with history or with ethnography or with new subjectivities and so forth. We can't. So that's the real question, actually, from a sociological perspective, is how the virtual is connected to the social and political, and that's what always I think it's useful for the discussion. And that's the bottom line, is how the relation between the virtual and the real works. And of course, it's not dichotomous. Like if we establish, just for the sake of discussion, dichotomy, virtual and real, it's more complicated than this, because it's conditioned on spatiality, temporality, and so forth. And it crosses my mind while I was preparing my thoughts. Lacan is the triad of symbolic, imaginary, and real, and how this dichotomy, um, um, virtual, real, disrupts. And sometimes I felt like in Tahrir, I felt like there's some incidents where I have a picture here that everything's broken down to one incident where an activist going to Tahrir with an English banner that seeks solidarity. So it's like trying to have a symbolic message to sending to Wisconsin or to um, Oakland. And it's a real protest. And they have an imaginary world where like the no injustice occurs. So it's how these things are overlap. Um, and of course, there are many other reasons why ambivalence happened on social about how the media, social media, becomes complex about the thinking of the image, the language, the time, reachability, interactions. So it's there are many reasons why social media is ambivalent to even our like scholars, activists at the same time. I moved to the paper. Um, I liked the thinking aloud and how the the framework you trying to establish about the uh, gambling and the exploring aspect or the experimentation of activism or taking risk and actually it reflects how really we are struggling about defining both activists and academics trying to negotiate what social media do actually to their activism or in relation to the Arab Spring or to the future of social movements or revolutions. What does it mean? So it's um, I like that a lot, and the spirit and but however, just one minor concern about really it's how to negotiate this spirit with really achievements on the ground that social media did, and we need to explore and to investigate in what ways it is useful. And that's I'll go back to this in my end of comments about social media and social movements. Then second part about the paper, I liked assemblages and Sasson and the Deleuzian flavor about, and I'm quoting about how assemblage is a set of contingent and ensemble of practices. And at the same time, probably I am thinking of from my perspective of my work about empire and thinking about area studies, really I can't avoid not bringing empire. Uh, so area studies, and I'm invoking David Harvey and new imperialism, and not only the spatio-temporal fix, but also production of knowledge as a key mode of production in empire. As can't so we can't think of future or uh, social media in relation to area studies without bringing in empire and future of really actually budget-wise many things are really it's connected to empire whether or not and on the ground as Arab Spring is so connected to empire with not just Mubarak being a US close friend man to the last minute supporting Mubarak or the newly empowered Supreme Council of Armed Forces is really $1 billion is U.S. aid to just the army. They are close friends with the American regime, comparing what happened in Syria to Libya and so forth. There are many other things that makes us. We need more to talk about empire framework in our discussion of area studies. My last comment is that social media and social movements, uh, and I liked on the area discussion today about the thinking of social media in reductionist terms, in terms of accessibility or reachability or spreading information, and that's actually it's very limiting. And it's really, if we look closely about how connected social media to activism there's many ways, and I'm just giving some thoughts from my close observation and connection to many bloggers and activists, and some of them are close friends, about how they talk about these issues. Um, so it's not just spreading news. There is many paradigms of different ways, and it was you well said in all the discussion today in your paper about how the multiple usages and different contexts, and even in Egypt, and from time to time, how social media was used differently before and after, topping down Mubarak, and during the transitional period, and from day to day with the shifts of the power dynamics on the street, and reducing, attacking Tahrir, or antagonizing the public against the revolutionaries or whatever. So these are just examples, like not only spreading news, but how it was used for mobilization, for calling for protest, and for exchanging information and tips about the Tunisian, and how all the tear gas, how to deal with this, um, as an organizing tool, sometimes a virtual demonstration, and or a space for deliberative democracy where they sit together, watching a talk show like a Baradi, or one of the candidates, or Mubarak speech, or whatever, commenting and deliberative, or Obama speech on the Middle East, talking, this collectively commenting and discussing and quoting and paraphrasing. And what do you mean? So it's really, sometimes the virtual community really worth examining on its own, in a very Habermasian, like how democracy, and then calling for solidarity, and sometimes eyeing solidarity, just to like intentionally talking to the international world, or blogging only in English and talking to the international world. Um, and sometimes they compare Twitter and Facebook activists about how exclusive or how intellectual, like Twitter community compared to Facebook, who is the public. This is like sophisticated because it really reflects the 140 characters. So dense that really reflects who are the Twitters, the tweeps. Um, and that's second thing. A third thing is like the traditional theories of revolution, the various like comparative macro sociological, being a sociologist myself. Um, it's really where social media fits in. Like if we think of, for example, for the very conventional Scotch Poll formula about revolution, a crisis in the economy, class, international geopolitical changes, or pressure on a particular state, and so forth, where social media fits in, how it breaks down the local and global back to the assemblages. And then, and my last comment, actually, I think it's from a new trend in the social movement, beyond the new that became now old social movement, is the sociology of emotions, and really, and I brought in Lacan in the beginning, but actually, really from my ethnography, like how activists, and sometimes like thinking even only closely with this about the 18 days of the revolution, how revolutionary psyche changed from time to time in the same day, about worried about people, like activists told me about, we were worried about people showing up in the morning, and then we have being so excited when you see millions during the day, and then at night become worried about families, and also the level of determinism, like when seeing friends or protesters, or you don't know, were killed in the front of you, how like becomes, it's a psychic game between you and the dictator. It's like it's a bit, there is, they say that we have a blood between Mubarak and us. The martyr's blood won't be wasted, so we have to either we will win and to achieve justice or not. Um, I will end here, and just to move to just show you few pictures about that links to some things that this is, I'm sorry that this is, I couldn't find a better picture, but for example, this is, yeah, exactly, this is a SCAF member, and this is Latouf, Carlos Latouf, Brazilian. This is a phenomenon on his own. really working closely sometimes with Egyptian tweeps online, uh, on Twitter, brainstorming about a new cartoon, or they're asking him about what's a new cartoon, and we need a new cartoon about this, and he's volunteering, and the 24 hours he's producing something about SCAF or about 6th of April, and during in the context of accusing 6th April of being infiltrators, like recently SCAF members, and the discourse of treason. So he's portraying SCAF, and you see that all the military aid to SCAF, who are the one who's talking about treason or being agent. So this is after attacks on Copts. So my purpose of showing the pictures, how sometimes it's purely, when I'm talking about the psychic and the emotional, like some things that's made to local, only made and targeting local to Egyptians, and sometimes it's made for a wider audience. So this is like my Field Marshal Tantawi, whose hand is has blood after the attacks on Copts in recently. So this is actually in Wall Street. It's Tahrir. This is somebody decided to go to Tahrir, and I'm sending a message to Wall Street. And this is very, very domestic, and actually only you need some Egyptians who knows proverb, and this is paraphrasing a proverb in Arabic, in Egyptian colloquial, and redoing it against the army, and the proverb in the original goes, ربنا على الظالم والمفتري وابن الحرام. So God will bring justice against the unjust, and so forth. And then here God is against the military and the soldier and the son of the older regime, or those who belong to the older regime. So this is again Latouf, and its first image was became kind of iconic during the revolution. Is the Mubarak and Khaled Said. And actually, this is Field Marshal Tantawi and Mina Daniel. Mina Daniel is one of the young activists who recently killed Coptic. He's a Coptic and also leftist. And I met him personally while I was in Egypt. And this is Field Marshal Tantawi playing with the same thing, reproducing the iconic picture for a new purpose, for mobilization. And this is a very example. I witnessing the long discussion between Latouf on Twitter with activists who are asking him to do a cartoon about labor. Soon after the revolution, SCAF enacted a new law against strikes and sit-ins, and this is about military trials for workers. So trying to be the SCAF versus Egyptian workers, or so forth. So actually, it was funny observing the entire process, like talking on Twitter with him and activists telling him that why you are not doing anything about workers so far. And sometimes the joke about Latouf is ready to do anything at any time whenever he is asked in solidarity. That's it. Thank you very much.